This is PIX on Politics Daily with Dan Mannarino.
All right, everybody, welcome to PIX on Politics Daily. I'm Dan Mannarino, and here we are on this October 30th. We are just a few days away, while we are in early voting, from the all-important day of Election Day, right? So PIX 11 News, along with Emerson College and The Poll, and The Hill, had exclusive polling that came out at 6 a.m. this morning, and this was a big one, both in the race for New York City mayor and the race for governor over in New Jersey. So let's talk about this for a second. In the race for New York City mayor, there's been a lot of talk about whether or not Zohran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, Curtis Sliwa would hit 50% in the poll, which many would say is at least half of New Yorkers looking to get them into office. And that's what happened today in this poll. Zohran Mamdani hit 50%. Andrew Cuomo in second place with 25%. Curtis Sliwa in third place with 21%. So a very close margin there between Curtis Sliwa and Andrew Cuomo. Zohran Mamdani far and away the front runner here. And this is kind of looking at the rest of the polls that came out this week. Marist had one, Quinnipiac had one. They all had Zohran Mamdani with a lead, but nothing like this one with a 25-point lead. So we reached out to the Andrew Cuomo campaign. Now remember, if your memory serves you, primary, Emerson College had Zohran Mamdani winning in the final round of ranked choice voting. Now, things played out differently. Zohran Mamdani won in round one. But Emerson College was the closest poll to that in the primary, which Andrew Cuomo called an outlier. This go-around today, they said that polls don't matter and anything from now until Election Day doesn't matter. Just 2 days ago, the Cuomo campaign was saying, look how the race is tightening. Look at the poll numbers. It shows Andrew Cuomo climbing. A couple days later, none of the polls matter. But that's where we are in the race for New York City mayor. Over in New Jersey, a much different story and a much tighter race. The numbers there really have Mikey Sherrill in the lead, but by a very, very slim margin, right? So we're talking 49.3% for Mikey Sherrill, 47.9% for Jack Ciattarelli. We don't usually include decimals, but I wanted to give you just how close this race is. It's statistically a dead heat of a race, meaning it can go either way because you add in the margin of error of 3%. And there you have it. It could really go either way right there. Everyone looking at what, in both situations, who the voters are, who's turning out early voting. In the race for New York City mayor, we took a look at race and age. African-American voters are breaking for Zohran Mamdani. Andrew Cuomo had hoped for that for him, but he also hoped to get 50 plus. And when you take a look at those numbers, it shows 37% of those who have already voted who are over the age of 50 have voted for Zohran Mamdani. 31% show that they are voting for Andrew Cuomo. So again, the number's not in Andrew Cuomo's favor at this point when you look at all of that. That's our poll. Henry Russell will have much more tonight on the PIX 11 News at 4, 5, and 6. So while that's all going on, we are nearing the end of the year and a lot of votes are happening in the city council. So let me transition to what we are looking at today in terms of the city council and a very key piece of legislation that did pass yesterday. And it has to do with graphic images and warnings of the dangers of keeping a firearm at home in gun shops across New York City. So Councilman Erik Bottcher was key in getting that legislation passed. He is my guest today, so let me bring him into the conversation. Good to see you, Councilman. So let's talk about this legislation here and why you felt that this was so important to put forward and get passed.
So we know that firearms are one of the leading causes of death in the United States, the number one cause of death of children in the United States, which is just shocking. And so many of those deaths come from accidents in the homes, incidents in homes. Yet, when people go to purchase firearms, there are no warnings at the point of purchase. And I can't think of a deadlier consumer product that has no warning at the point of purchase. So the legislation that we passed yesterday will require a warning on the wall of gun stores in New York City. And there are 14 of them. But for the first time in the United States, we're going to require a graphic warning. And this was inspired by cigarette packs in other countries. We've all seen them. A graphic that really drives home that public health message. And we're going to require that on gun stores in New York City. So you can imagine what it might be. It might be something like a child's coffin, just to get people to think twice. And if it gets one person to change their mind about bringing a firearm into their home, the law will have done its job. We're hoping it'll spread around the country, and this will be the norm in gun sellers.
So, you brought up the cigarettes. Let me just ask you from the other side of it. The warnings for cigarettes haven't stopped people from buying cigarettes. So how do you see it playing out? Do you think it'll actually work? You think people will look at that and say, okay, well, maybe I won't do it?
Well, cigarette usage has gone way down. I mean, it's just it's one of the big public health success stories of our generation, how many fewer people smoke. And we do believe that the public health messaging around cigarettes is a big reason why. That public health messaging doesn't really exist around firearms. And we need to begin treating firearms like the public health crisis that they are. A public health approach is part of the mix here when we talk about reducing gun deaths. So yes, we need to bring public health messaging, making sure that consumers are aware that a firearm in the home is exponentially more likely to harm or kill someone in the home than it is to be used in self-defense. Suicide, domestic violence deaths are exponentially higher when there's a gun in the home. I'm a survivor of suicide attempts as a youth.
Yeah.
I talk about that a lot because we have to reduce the stigma around mental health. But I'll tell you, my father did not have a gun in the home when I was a young person. He does now because he's a hunter, but that's a whole nother story. He didn't then. If he had, it's very likely I would not be here right now. So we need people to know how dangerous guns are in the home.
Yeah. You had 31 co-sponsors of this. Was that bipartisan?
Were there any Republicans? Quite possibly not. In fact, Ina Vernikov spoke out against the bill yesterday on the floor. As we know, she got in trouble for brandishing a handgun on a school campus. And I happen to believe that even if you do worship the Second Amendment, you shouldn't have a problem with public health messaging that makes consumers aware that guns are dangerous. So I don't understand opposition to it on that basis.
Now this goes to the mayor, right? Is he expected to sign it?
He is expected to sign it. We coordinated closely with his Department of Health, and although that hasn't stopped him from vetoing other bills, he is expected to sign it. The Department of Health, this bill requires the New York City Department of Health to create the imagery that will go on the walls of these gun stores.
While I have you, I want to talk about a couple other things. Number one, you just heard me kind of lay out the poll in the race for mayor. I want to get your thoughts on it.
I'm not surprised by it. There's a great deal of enthusiasm for Zohran Mamdani's candidacy, and it hasn't really waned since the primary. I think people are hungry for change, hungry for fresh leadership. That's the vision that he's presenting, and it does look like he's only growing his lead. Who knows how things will manifest themselves at the ballot box, because polls have been wrong again and again, but they're almost never off by this kind of margin. Yeah. And that's a really big margin that you just outlined in the poll that came out this morning.
Yeah, 25 points. I mean, last time you were actually physically here on Picks and Politics in studio, Councilman, I asked you if you would run for city council speaker or if there was another job that you wanted. Here you are declaring that you are looking, right, correct me if I'm wrong, is looking to run for Congress, or are you declaring candidacy to run for Congress?
I opened an account to begin laying the groundwork for a run. I'm going to be making a decision in the very near future. I'm up for re-election to the city council on Tuesday for a second 4-year term, but I'm very, very seriously considering running for Congress. I love our country. I love our city. I'm heartbroken about what's happening in our country, and every one of us needs to step up in our own way and fight for our country. And this is a really, really big opportunity to fight for our country. And it's a big, big decision. I'm considering it very carefully.
Yeah.
I believe that I would have a lot to bring to the table here.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, because I've had many conversations with you. So I'm going to ask this respectfully. Why not declare now and not run for the council office? Are you looking to have it both ways?
Well, the city council is one of the best jobs I've ever had. It's the best job I've ever had. And I absolutely love serving on the New York City Council. Congress would be another very, very high honor. I am asking my constituents to send me back to City Hall for another 4 years. If I decide to throw my hat in the ring for Congress, that's something I would do while also giving my all to serving my constituents. I think anyone who knows me knows that the energy that I come at this job, it's 7 days a week.
Yeah.
From the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. So if I do run for Congress, it would be something that I do while I serve my constituents strongly. I'll tell you that the assault by the Trump administration is something that affects us in the city council, right? We are under assault. Everything that we try to do in the city council to make people's lives better is stymied by our own federal government that's attacking us. So we need to step up using every tool in our toolbox.
So when would you actually make a decision on that, right? Because, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but you raised this record amount of money. Are we anticipating a declaration maybe right after Election Day? How soon after?
I would be deciding soon. And we did raise almost $700,000 in the first 24 hours. It was a tremendous outpouring of support. I was so blown away by it. I think if I would have, to me, like raising $500,000 in a day would have been beyond what I even imagined. But we had almost 700,000 come in from people all over my council district and all over Congressional District 12, Upper West Side, Upper East Side. Huge amount of enthusiasm, and it gives me a lot of hope for this race if we decide to go in.
Yeah. Well, do me a favor. When you do make a decision, come on back here.
You bet. You've been on fire. I love what you've been doing. Your interviews have been awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. But when you declare or not declare, come back in studio. I want you in studio. We'll talk about it, okay?
You got it.
All right, Councilman. Good to see you as always, all right?
Thanks a lot. Likewise.
We'll talk soon. Thank you. All right, everybody. And that's going to do it for Picks on Politics. We'll see you Picks on Politics Friday night, 6:30 p.m. We're going to do a whole episode focused on the elections for New York City mayor, New Jersey governor, excuse me. We have a full panel episode with all our experts and pundits coming in. That's tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. So we'll see you then.